Hello there and welcome to You Talking to Me. After the Paris attacks, the question about how to enforce our security and at the same time protect our data privacy is under discussion in the European Parliament. Two main big issues are concerned. First, the PNR, the passenger name records, or the so-called information exchange of air travelers are in discussions and on debate here in the European Parliament, as the European member states are urging the Parliament to agree before the end of the year. And the second big issue is about the Data Protection Directive. To discuss these points, I'm with two guests, two members of the European Parliament. I have the pleasure to welcome Rebecca Harms, co-chair of the Greens Group. Hello.
Hello.
And Mr. Andrej Plenkovic, you are quite member of the Centre-Right Group.
Good day and thank you for inviting me.
Hello and welcome both of you. So the information exchange of air travelers are still under discussion between the European Parliament, the European Commission and the Council. And this proposal, as initially proposed by the European Commission since 2011, are still stuck in the European Parliament. So Barbara from Radio HRT, who is a European Plus member from Croatia, underlined the two main controversial points that the Parliament is blocking on the PNR issue. We listen to her.
Hello, it's great to be with you today. There are many controversial issues that need to be resolved in discussions over the EU passenger name record proposal, including a data retention period and also whether the law should apply to flights within Europe. So I would like to hear our MEP's views on these specific criteria. Thank you.
So, Mrs. Harms, as we know that PNR should be an important tool to track suspected terrorists, do you think that expanding the PNR within the intern EU flights as well as the external flights should be a solution?
So everybody knows that the Greens in the European Parliament and also in the national context they are working have been very skeptical on PNR. And data collection when it comes to a non-defined group of our citizens. I fear that right now the majorities will change and the described measures might get a majority also in the European Parliament. So what my concern would be at this very moment, how we are going to make sure that this is happening in a phase of emergency, but not when our societies are going back to normal, because our constitutions in some of the member states, but also our ideas of free and democratic society gets under pressure by those measures.
Okay, well, we're talking here, after May of the terrorist attacks. So the Mr. Kirkhope, the rapporteur of the PNR issue in the Parliament, even stressed that since the beginning, so the intern flights as well as the external flights will be defined in this report since the beginning. So do you think this could be achieved by the end of the year?
Prije svega, hvala lijepo Barbara. I'm thanking Barbara, who is from Croatia, for this important point on our agenda. And I think after the Paris terrorist attacks, for which I again express my condolences and sympathy to the families of victims and the French people and the French nation in the unprecedented terror attack that we have witnessed, we as the EPP were the group which was always supporting the Commission proposal regarding the PNR framework decision, and we believe that the recent Council conclusions also signal the sense of urgency. They signal the sense of urgency in two directions. One is to complete the trilogue, which is ongoing on this particular legislative proposal. And second is also to ensure the sufficient time for retention of data.
So initially it's 1 month, so
exactly.
We have to remind our public.
Absolutely. And I think that given the nature of the terrorist attacks, which are not only transnational, I think we need to bear in mind that this should also be applied also for intra-EU flights, not only international flights. Of course, we are very much into the protecting data of our citizens and not being intrusive into the privacy. But I think we have to put security of our citizens really in the first plan at at the moment, and therefore the position of the EPP to be as efficient and as urgent as possible on this matter, and we look forward also for the, let's say, adapted position of our partners in the left of the spectrum regarding this particular legislative proposal.
Yeah, Mrs. Harms, you wanted to comment on this, but then...
So I'm not at all against discussions and decisions to increase security. So our impression, so after many discussions on how to improve security, is that only by making the mountain of data we are collecting bigger, we will not increase the security situation. And I found it very interesting that many members of civil services, so many experts also on terrorism, they told us during the last days it's not that we are lacking data. We are lacking analytical competencies. We are lacking of expert staff on this. And in addition, in Europe, the secret services, they are not cooperating. There is no exchange, even not on such issues as the results of measures in France.
That's the point that we will come back also, because the exchange, a better exchange of information, that's the most important
If I may just, there
point.
are just 2 points. We as the Parliament, what is our main purpose? We are a legislator, a co-legislator. We are a legislative body. We would like to provide a solid framework that has no obstacles for our services at a national level. We, of course, would like to see our intelligence services, our security services, our police forces cooperating better, exchanging information, leading to the prevention of terrorist attacks like the ones that we have witnessed in Paris only on the 13th of November. So our point is, let's do the maximum that we can on the legislative level, and let's improve to the maximum possible on the operational level.
Okay, Mrs.
But then it's really interesting that the focus is that much on data collection and surveillance, and that little on the deepening and improvement of the cooperation, because all those deficits in the cooperation, we discussed it after Charlie Hebdo, and now we see nothing has changed, nothing has been improved.
When we're talking about you said this full amount of information, concerning the information, considering that we so far have the names, the passenger, the eating habits of the passengers, the travel tickets, the payment consideration, that's not a big mass of different information of citizens. So, Mrs. Harms, do you think we can, at this moment, could we maybe be more tolerant about sharing our data information just to enforce our security?
So I think right now it's not a question of being tolerant, but mainly also so that there must be somebody to question whether it will help or not. And you have, for example, in France already kind of homeland security given. And nothing of what they did on surveillance measures or also data collection helped them to protect their citizens when it was necessary. Maybe it also was impossible because it happened too fast whatsoever, but we should also have in mind that these conventional measures by which the states are always reacting on terror, they have limits. And so to discuss it in an open way, to reflect what really helps and what never really helped would be nice.
So we are also talking about the other controversial point about the period of retention of this data. So initially it's 1 month, but the French Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve also stressed last week that it should be even further and until even more than 1 year, until 1 year. So do you agree with this period of retention?
Yes, I think it will be up to the trial.
1 year is the maximum, would be?
I think at the moment we are at the stage where we're in the post-crisis management and the post-crisis communication. It is very clear. And I think that it is up to the key experts on issues of data protection, data retention, fight against terrorism to find out what is the most suitable time period in order to have this data collected and carefully stored. I mean, no abuse should be in any way open in any case. This is clear. But at the same time, I think that the information sharing is the main point that we need to emphasize amongst our services. And the point is that the services, when there is a suspicion, where there is a lead, that they can actually check the data with the airline companies, that this data is provided to them and not that they are prevented from it. So the point is that all legislative framework should enable us to trace the terrorists, to check out and verify the information that certain public body or a private company might hold.
Okay, about the share of data, we have one question from our partner, Italian member of Euranet Plus, from Gigi. We listen to him.
My question would be concerning the way we deal with the data. Okay, with a PNR, we might collect and gather a huge amount of information, but how to manage all this amount of information, how we can share and how we can coordinate our use of this information? Could you please tell something on these issues?
Mrs. Arms, police work and security must be put before or data privacy, do you think, to help the work of security and police? So that should be the first priority.
In the democratic society, you have always to balance the ideas of freedom and security, and we are again in a very special moment, and we have to discuss how we keep our freedom and also organize better security for our citizens. And so the data protection issue is a serious issue, but I would also say if it would help, then there's not that much a problem, but especially also because of this question, where are the people in the secret services or among special police troops to have the analytical competencies to deal with a growing amount of data. And we are not talking about little data, we are talking about very big data. Meanwhile, when it comes to the exchange of information in between the different member states and the different parts of secret services and special police, so we have even the problem of language, and even this basic problem of language in the cooperation has not been solved so far.
Mr. Plenkovic, so your group, I mean, even your chair, Mr. Weber, also stressed this morning that, I mean, a revision of the data protection directive is necessary because it is blocking the good share of information, this PNR. So why exactly, concretely, why is this data protection directive a blocking?
The point that Chairman Weber and the EPP is putting forward and on the table is very clear. Why do we need a review? We need a review in order to eliminate any possible negative impact of the current legal framework for the law enforcement agencies to investigate, to prosecute, or to operate with certain data that might be necessary for the criminal investigation. I mean, we are facing the gravest possible crime offenses that Europe has seen in many, many years. And in order to respond adequately, we should not tie our hands ourselves. This is the point. We are not talking about introducing a big brother or the overpowered police or prosecution forces, but we just need a legal framework that solidly addresses the current crisis and the current situation. As I said, we are very much in favor of the privacy of our citizens. We are very much in favor of protecting their data, but we should also adequately find means, both legislative, operational and financial, to fight terrorism. This is the greatest threat at the moment. It is a threat within our borders, and it is a fight also outside our borders. So I think the comprehensive approach to the current anti-terrorist activities of the European Union is essential. In the foreign policy point of view, the root causes, linking the issue with security, with foreign fighters, with infiltrated people in the refugee flow. It's a very complex area, and I think that these two pieces of legislation on the agenda are our contribution to the solution of the problem.
So Mr. Kirkhope, the rapporteur, also stressed this morning that he is still confident that an agreement will be reached before the end of the year. Do you think also, as we still see that there are a lot of political differences between?
Unfortunately, the terrorist attack in Paris is a new opportunity for the political forces in the parliament to reach a consensus, to reach an agreement. I here especially appeal to Rebecca, who is a good friend, and we work very closely together on a number of dossiers. This is a special moment. The member states are very clear. We live in a democracy based on the rule of law. We are for freedom and for the respect of human rights. But what are the main expectations of our citizens? They want to be secure. And I think that the citizens are setting a message. We are confident that our institutions will not abuse our data, but that the data they collect might prevent future terrorist attacks. This is in the heart of this matter, and I'm confident that most of the political forces in the parliament will eventually find a sufficient majority and adopt the legislation.
Okay, we will see that in the following weeks. Thank you both for coming, and thank you for watching us. Bye, see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.